I'm Vik Hothi, and over the past 3 decades, learning, training and researching the martial arts has been my life's passion. In 2017, I had a life-threatening illness, and using all of the attributes I had developed through diligent martial arts practice, and in particular the Wing Chun system, I was able to make a full recovery. As a result, I wanted to do a project to give back to this wonderful style of Kung Fu. It's because of this, I made the decision to take my students over to China to interview the leading experts of the main lineages of Wing Chun, all in an effort to bring some clarity to the system, especially as there are many outside influences detracting it from its true essence. In the following videos, I'll be asking a series of questions to the various Sifus to get a better understanding of the history and establishing a baseline for what the Wing Chun Kung Fu system really is. Alright, so in this installment, we'll be introducing you to a style of Wing Chun that's quite unknown in the West from a master called Gwok Wai Zhaam or Gwok Sifu. Gwok Sifu is the son and inheritor of Gwok Fu, who was considered in the 1940s to be one of Yip Man's most accomplished students. In fact, he became one of the most respected Wing Chun elders in Fatsaan. Gwok Sifu began his training in the 60s under his father at around 6 years old, trained incredibly diligently until the 80s when he decided to open his own school and spread his family's teachings. He is now the head chairman of the Fatsaan Martial Arts Association. In my personal experience, I found Gwok Sifu and his students to be everything a good martial artist should be. They were humble, open, honest, incredibly hospitable, and their skills are direct, practical and functional. Of particular interest will be his style of chi sao that has this point and angle system that Gwok Sifu will explain in the interview. It's my sincere pleasure to help bring awareness about Gwok Sifu and his students and his teachings, so I hope you enjoy the interview.
I start to get to know in Wing Chun is in 1960. Why I remember that clear, it was because in 1960, it was Lun Gai, his Sidai, contacted with Gwok Fu, and also Lun Gai set up the first electricity bulb, light bulb for them. So they got their first electricity light in that year. So this is why he remember very clear about the time. When Lun Gai started to recontact with my father, he already forgot what he learned before totally. So he took some chance on every Saturday to came here and visit my father to relearn the style from my father. So every Saturday, I got to see how they learn and how they train Wing Chun. So after 2 years, I started to really take the lesson from my father. The reason of that because at that time, when he was around 10 years old, he responsible for cook and boil water to make tea. And that time they need to use the straw, to burn the straw to cook. So he normally will have ash everywhere and to make him like sweaty, and so it's not a pleasure job. So his mother said, if you are interested in learning Wing Chun, then you can, no need to do this kind of housework. So he took this chance. On Friday, when his father came back, he take the chance to learn something from his father, then he can avoid to cook. And on Saturday, when Lun Gai came, he take chance to learn with them, and he escaped to boil the water to make tea. So this is the reason he started to learn. But he only trained Wing Chun when his father around, so it's not very good at that time. It just try to escape the housework. I take this Wing Chun seriously in 1964, which after 2 years. Why? It's because whenever Lun Gai came, he always said my Wing Chun was very bad. And also my father ignored me all the time because he thought I am not interested in that and really into it. But until 1964, Lun Gai also took some of his students came, and then they asked him to train the Qi Sao because he has to do it, kind of like forced to do the Qi Sao. So he's around like 12 years old, a teenager, he wants to win. So this is why he started to really take the Wing Chun seriously and to train. So until 1966, which the Cultural Revolution started, so the children don't need to go to school. And also, since during these years, he got a lot of chance to train Qizhou with everybody Rengai take here. So he is really addicted to it. If he doesn't do training, he cannot fall asleep during the night. Since we have got a lot of experience to train with different people, so we actually got some reputation on what we are good at. So this is why until in 70s, the people will they will start to think about maybe we need to have more theory, like why we do Qizhou and how to do it better, instead of just do things before. So his kung fu was being forced in the beginning, and then he got a chance to into fight, and then he got addicted to it. So this is why he got his kung fu come from. Our God style Wing Chun was taught by my father, but he was only taught quite few students, mainly teaching him. So nowadays, Gwok Sifu students open a school, more than 70 schools all over the world. So actually, some school they have like a lot of students, maybe more than 1,000. Some also promote God style Wing Chun in schools, so in the like normal schools. So this is you can say quite popular here in China and overseas. Wing Chun we can say it's very popular now all over the world. Of course, for overseas, mainly it's because of Yip Man. His students promote Wing Chun. Also in mainland China, Yip Man and his students or his grand students, they promote a lot of this. A few years ago, the people from north of China, they don't know what is Wing Chun, but because of the Yip Man movies, people got to know it and they're interested in that. So nowadays, the Wing Chun kind of like can count as one of the biggest martial arts style in China. As my father told me, when Yip Man taught, he will teach differently to his students according to their time and their characters. So this is why it's not everyone learn the fully complete system. And so, for example, if some people they just train maybe 3 or 5 years, or they cannot invest enough time every day on training, maybe they cannot get the whole idea of this system. This is what his father feel about when Yip Man teach. So everyone, they train the forms. Forms are very easy. If one can copy the moves, then they can learn it. But what is the standard, which means the moves are qualified or can be used. So this is where we need to introduce Qizhou in the training system. And also we need to find out why and how to do the Qizhou, the purpose of different Qizhou training. This is to know about how to make Qizhou work. And for example, like we go to school, forms are primary education. We need to pass the forms the process, and then we can go into Qizhou training part. So we have 3 forms. Each form they have their main purpose, why we do the form moves and why we do these techniques. So when before we do Qizhou, we have to understand the meaning of each forms. Then we can do Qizhou. So if we don't understand the meaning, it's kind of like no purpose when you're doing qizhou. So these three forms, of course, we all know Xiulintao is the straight line theory, but most of people nowadays, they only focus on the straight line theory, which is just come from a Xiulintao. They kind of ignore the purpose, the strategy from Chengqiu and Beauty. Because Xiulintao, actually, it is used the straight line theory, but Chengqiu and Beauty are not. So we just focus on the straight line theory, then it's kind of like we didn't use the techniques from Chengqiu or Beauty. We said like you make them useless. So the first one, Xiulintao, when we do it, we like stand still, and we don't also we don't move, just the hand techniques. So this is the straight line theory. This is one fighting system. If our opponent also use the straight line theory, if he's bigger and has longer arms, or maybe stronger, then he will win. Or maybe he also skilled, then he will win. So this is the Xiulintao's disadvantage. So to compensate this disadvantage, here comes the beauty, which we use 45-degree theory. So this is also we so-called Wang Da Zai. If a directly translation will be horizontal, attack the vertical. This we so-called this 45-degree, which also called dead angle. For the straight line theory, the 45-degree will be the most weak part. The strategy of this is pre-active, like taking initiative first. So here comes another problem is, what if the opponent also use the same idea, like Beauty idea, then of course, and the stronger one will, or the one we react fast will win. So here comes the third one. So this is what we know is a Chengqiu. So he used the idea is start late but arrive first. In Fatsaan, they call this a side body Wing Chun. They contain some techniques from Chengqiu form, but not all of them. So this is kind of like a circle. Use the Beauty to defeat Xiulintao technique and Chengqiu to deal with Beauty, but this Xiulintao can deal with Chengqiu. It's kind of like a circle. So you can see Bruce Lee, he likes to use a side body way. He actually just used two techniques from Chengqiu form. So this is our style. When we do qizhou, we take the ideas from different forms and apply them into qizhou training. To make our student qizhou skill better, we want them to understand the 36 angles for attacking and defending. So if they can understand 36 angles of attacking and defending from each forms, which means total 108 angles, then he can be good at that. So when they do qizhou, they will emphasize on the angles. Wu Zhen Dami has two purposes to use that. One is to train to find out 36 angles, which you can see there are two arms, so one for the left hand and one for the right hand. So this is the one purpose. Another one is to use to train power. In our system, we have three different power, which we can call it shaking power, Zhen Geng Lei, and penetrating power, Qun Tou Lei. Another one is inch power, Qun Geng Lei. Because when our students doing qizhou, they were just allowed to use their own power, not extra forces. Otherwise, they might hurt each other, or they cannot train the feeling. So this way, if we just do qizhou, we will lack the training of power. Also, when we do qizhou, two people, another one, when we do some techniques, another one definitely will move. But dummy, they will not move. So you can use dummy to find out the correct angle and the correct positions. So this is why we use Wu Zhen dummy for training power and find out angles and positions. The knives, they actually extension of our arms. So actually the techniques in knives, they also are within the empty hand techniques. And also we train the knife forms, we coordinate with the step work to make the whole body move the coordinate way. For the pole, we train our legs, which we cannot train that when doing forms or other wooden dummy or qisa, we cannot do that. So we train our legs for play pole. And also we will train the min leg, which we can call it a stick power on the pole. Why we call this a 6-point half pole is because we count as if the pole reach out without touch another one's pole, which we just call that half point. But if our pole get in touch with another one's pole and we keep forward, then that is half plus half will be 1 point. And also if our poles get in touch and my pole deflect another one's, like change another one's pole's direction, that also is half plus half become 1 point. So also our pole is not used to bounce another one's pole away. It's stick on his pole and to change his direction. Our pole is not the flexible one. Some other style will use that in Southern martial arts system, but if it's Lodin Bun Guan, we need to use a solid pole. For the empty hand techniques, doing knife forms will help because it's kind of like extension of the arms. So we do the knife forms, to train our coordination with the footwork. But for the pole, might not the pole just focus on training the legs. Yeah, they have the sparring wear gloves and also the helmet and the protection gear. Yes, we have tours, including wooden dummy. We mentioned before, used to train power and find the correct angle and the position. And also we have another dummy called Dok Long Zhuang, which means single dragon zhuang. And also they will use that kind of sa bao to train the different hand positions. So how to distinguish of internal and external, we will use how to run our power, which as what we understand is blood plus hay equals to power. So in our system, we call it a gum leg, which is a tandem power. So in our system, we talk about 3 groups of power. Now use the first group of power as an example. The heart will pump blood out of then they will pass the heimun, which the points on the collarbone, and then it will flow under the armpit and under the inside of arms, and then circle back from outside. So this is why our system, we need to sink the elbow to make inside of the arm hard and outside soft. Yeah, before we were talking the leg running in a circle way, but for the external martial art, running as a circle, so which means the flow running fluently. But if some external way, they will tense the shoulder and then the power straight go out and straight back, which we so-called is not follow the natural fluent of the blood and the hay. So this is why we instinct with the external and the internal. When Yip Man teach, he was very strict. Whenever the students cannot do a correct posture or correct technical knives or maybe empty hand techniques, then he will not teach next one. So my father used the same way to teach me, since he will just come back once every week. So if he came back and he saw my do things, but not, he can tell if I train or not. So if he can tell I didn't train, then he will ask me to do the same technique again. So he tried to train one technique more than 1 month. My father told us to close our eyes to train the qi sao. So when they train during the night at some time, and then his father will ask the student go into a room and cover their eyes, and then they can just to touch to feel. Once they feel someone, they have to attack immediately, and also maybe they need to move to the correct way. Otherwise, they probably will be hit by another one. So this is people just do things in dark. So nowadays, some schools, they train qi sao, but their hands already get in touch, just cover the eyes. That is not a cover eyes qi sao because they already get in touch, they know where the opponent was. So in their way, they just in dark, and then they have to find out where the enemy is and how to attack in a short time and how to avoid being attacked. Sometimes there are too many people, for example, 8 or 7 people in one small room, so they probably will touch the wall. So when Yip Man saw they almost touched the wall, he will punch them from the back. Then they know they have to turn now. This kind of training will hurt a lot. It's because they use the combination to not just attack one time. Combination including at least 4 different techniques. So once they attack, they will use at least one combination. So which means they will get like maybe hit in 4 times in 1 second.
4、5、6、7、8、9、10，两一步，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8 一、二、三、四、五、六，一、二、三、四、五，头皮，一、二、三、四、五、六、七，左边，一二三四五六七八，一二三四五六七八，一二三四五六七八，一二三四五六七八，一二三四五六七八，一二三四五六七八，一二三四五六七八，一二三四五六七八，二。